Hey, how's it going? My name is Safe, and welcome back. And today we're going to talk about more Smite Pro League history, specifically Smite World Championship history. But this time we're talking about a different god. We're talking about Hunbatz, the monkey god. Hunbatz, in my mind, before I started doing any of this research, he was picked all the time. To me, he's like one of the most popular junglers outside of like Thor in my brain. I kind of felt like he would be picked throughout every single season in my mind going into this, except for maybe later on, like later seasons. I feel like gods like Ratatasker, Lancelot, Gilgamesh, and stuff like that kind of took over and stopped letting Hunbatz do what he wanted to do, and gods like Camazotz too. But I was very curious to see, or what has Hunbatz's role in the history of Smite Pro League been? And like I said, we're looking at specifically the World Championships, and I'm not looking at any pre-release stuff, no launch tournaments or anything like that. I'm just looking at the first 1 through 10 seasons of the World Championships. And what better place to start than Season 1? I was doing research for a different video when I had watched mostly every game in Season 1. And Hunbatz was one of the most popular gods throughout the early portion of Season 1. But that did kind of lead me into a false sense of hope whenever it came to watching these games, because Hunbatz wasn't really picked that much in Season 1 of the World Championships. I thought he would be much more popular because of his teamfight ult. I feel like that's kind of something that is going to be a hallmark for Hunbatz. No matter how he fits in the meta, he has that teamfight ult, that huge Fear No Evil that he can just use to disrupt fights no matter how weak he is. So I thought he would always be played, and I thought, especially back in Season 1, when there weren't a lot of gods that had teamfight ults, he would get played. Hunbatz was played in the first game of DID versus Cog Red by Oswan? I don't know how to say this dude's name.
Gold still not really in the favor. That rotation was costly in terms of gold farm. Oh, let's take a look on the right side, Brandon.
Jeez, DDO's taking a lot of damage here. We're going to see him go back. Ashwan is going down.
I don't know how they said it on the cast either. He did not have a good game though. It was bad. As I kept watching the tournament, I quickly realized gods like Thor, Serket, Ao Kuang, even Nemesis and Kali were considered much stronger junglers and were picked way more often than Hunbatz. And I was kind of afraid we weren't going to see any monkey this year. And I kind of thought seasons 1 through 4 was kind of where he was going to shine the most. Hunbatz did finally get a chance to shine when Dagars, the jungler for Cog Red, picked him against SK Gaming, and he had a great game. It makes you wonder why they hadn't already picked him in their prior games. It was a crazy game. I was told through the comments of my previous video about Fenrir that I should add little gameplays. So as I'm talking about stuff, I might decide to add gameplay, like whatever I'm talking about, of whoever playing this god. Other than that, you will see in the background that there is like footage. We'll see how lazy I decide to be with this. But I've already been working on this video for a couple days. Dagars would pick Hunbatz again in the next game of that same set, putting on a clinic and going deathless. It was one of the best games I've ever watched in Season 1. I don't know why I hadn't watched this full game, but from a jungler perspective, it was a fantastic game.
Front line. Meanwhile, though, the fight in the back is starting to reach. Zero's dunks in, but Zero is evaporated in seconds. And now Maniac is the one on the front line trying to do it. Real to the rescue.
Oh no, Real not to the rescue. Real put himself in a lot of danger. You got to get out of there, buddy. Finally, Maniac's going to drop to Ionic. Ionic has another guy in his sight, driving straight to the face. Aphrodite gets swarmed up by Afro.
Whew. Signs of resignation on the faces from
That's not good.
Once I had made it through almost the entire tournament, I realized that Athena was even picked more often in jungle than Hunbatz, which is lame to me. I think Athena's lame. I need to play her a little bit more. Maybe I'm sleeping. You can go ahead and tell me that I'm an idiot in the comments. But that would be the last time the Hunbatz is picked. Dagars was the only person who played Hunbatz in Season 1 of the World Championships, and he also didn't get banned a single time which I think is important to notice. Because even with Fenrir, when we did Fenrir, he wasn't picked very often, but he did get banned. Moving on to Season 2 Worlds, I was very surprised by Season 1, and before going into Season 2, I was kind of hoping that Hunbatz would get a chance to reestablish himself and create more of a niche for himself. But gods like Thor and Serket and Ao Kwang, I don't think got very much weaker in Season 2. They were picked very often. But I was holding out hope for the monkey. And my prayers might have been answered, as Adapting picks Hunbatz in his first game of the tournament against Isurus. Do I even have to tell you that he had one of the greatest games I've ever seen?
25 minutes, nearly 26 in, two Phoenixes down. Isurus trying to hold out Epsilon Esports.
They're not even that they don't have enough. They're burning through Xingchen. Adapting, finding another one with EXTT. Bentley goes down 3. He doesn't want to go into that. They're looking for the shutdown. 0-12 right now. Isurus trying to fight, but the third bird falls. 13-0. Epsilon looking to close it out.
Well, he did. It was an absolute masterclass. A few games later, Adjust for Team Enemy picked Hunbatz against Avant-Garde. He also had a good game. He was a little too aggressive for my taste. I like a more methodical jungler. Yeah, great game, and his ults always hit at least like 3 people. It was pretty sick to watch. Captain Twig also picked Hunbatz in the next game against the QG Reapers. I don't know why that name is just awkward for me to say. And he had a great game, just shutting down what QG wanted to do. The next person to pick Hunbatz is Blue Whale for Team OMG. Blue Whale had an okay game, starting off very, very behind. I remember he was like 4 levels behind at some point in time, but his team was able to make it work. He was working well off of his team. He had good ults. It was honestly a pretty fun jungler game to watch. At least, like, going back and watching somebody who is obviously of, like, lower level than the other professional junglers that were playing. But he was very, like, adaptive, and he didn't overstep, even though, like, he was behind. Like, he knew he was behind, and he played it relatively smart. It was pretty interesting to watch. He had a great end game, too. He actually played the end of the game very well. Twig went back to Hunbatz against Enemy. He had an alright game, but couldn't keep up with Team Enemy. It was just one of those games. Blue Whale runs it back with Hunbatz against Paradigm, and he did not have a great game. It was kind of the same thing as the first game, where he was just behind. Instead, this time he's playing against Cubo Fred in the jungle, and I think that was kind of the difference maker. When you're playing against a higher level jungler, it's hard to be behind and still make an impact. We see Hunbatz banned for the first time in Enemy versus Pain Gaming. It makes a lot of sense. Because Enemy picked him for Adjust in the next game that they did not ban him, and he had a great game. Twig, again, picks Hunbatz against Epsilon. He had a fine game, but Epsilon is just way too strong, especially right now, for him to actually make a real impact. He did pick it again, though, right after, and got completely diffed. It was not good. He got destroyed by Adapting. It happens to everybody. Hunbatz was then finally banned again by Paradigm against Enemy twice in a row. Then Enemy finally gets to pick him in Game 4, where Adjust goes insane on it. It was crazy. It was such a good game to watch.
That's not good. Flop off the mark. Intoxicate hits 4. Soars in the air, looking for the counter engage. Lands on 2, gets a stun. Adjust, turning it around with a big overhand smash. Chaos, though, had the extra protections from his ultimate. Adjust to the back shot to the monkey and finds the kill on Cubo. He's duking out Fumble. Flop comes in, but look at Salt Machine. He cannot lock
Gets on to the back.
Still there. And Azalea falls too. North America. Enemy are going to the final! Ladies and gentlemen.
Cloud9 bans Hunbatz against Epsilon. Andister picks Hunbatz next, having a pretty good game on it, but ultimately getting diffed by Adapting. And so Adapting picks Hunbatz in the next game to show Andister how it's done. And he had an okay game, but could not do enough for his team to bring them back into it. Andy picks Hunbatz again in Game 5, but if you do remember from my Fenrir video, this is one of the greatest Fenrir games ever played by a jungler, and Andister could not hang. The story continues in Grand Finals when Adjust picks Hunbatz, and again, Adapting just tears him to shreds. It was not fair. Adapting goes back to it in Game 3, and surprise, surprise, Adapting does it again. That might be the most a god that I've ever talked about has been picked in a single season. Other than Thor, Hunbatz was picked in nearly every single game, at least once per set, or banned. It was pretty awesome to see people going crazy with the monkey. After Season 2, I was going into Season 3, kind of hoping that we would have more of the same here. We just had like a peak in terms of gods that I've talked about. Finner had a couple seasons of being picked or banned every game. It was more so he was getting banned every game. It was pretty cool to see Hunbatz get picked in nearly every set, sometimes multiple times per set. It was awesome. I felt like I was typing up a storm. My fiance was going crazy because my loud-ass keyboard. I was kind of afraid for Season 3 because gods like Camazotz, Ravana, and Ratatasker were going to be more popular here, and I kind of thought that would mean no more Hunbatz. Hunbatz did get banned by the Direwolves against Obey in the 4th game of the tournament. After watching about 6 games into this tournament, Team Happy finally picks Hunbatz, going into the hands of our favorite player now, Blue Whale. Welcome back, Blue Whale. He had the cleanest game he's had on the Hunbatz, too, being able to kind of control the game against INTZ. Before we move on to a different jungler, kind of want to shout out Blue Whale because watching these tournaments, I kind of have an appreciation for Blue Whale. Like we were saying in Season 2, he had some pretty like mid-bad starts, some not great games, where his team kind of had to, you know, keep the ball rolling. But in this game against INTZ, it was his cleanest game that he's had, and he keeps going back to the Hunbatz, and it was really cool to watch, like, the growth of that player. I just wanted to shout it out a little bit. We're kind of on a roll, though, with Hunbatz, as he was picked in the following game by the Direwolves for Roe, who didn't have a terrible game, but couldn't make it happen against Weaken and the Boys of Allegiance. Blue Whale goes back and picks Hunbatz again in the quarterfinals, and he got smacked up. So much, though, that he did not go back to the Hunbatz. And I'm noticing about halfway into this tournament, a little over halfway into this tournament, that Erlong Shin and Awilix are being prioritized over Hunbatz. And honestly, kind of the same thing with Thanatos. Something I've noticed is that all the international teams really believe in Thanatos, and a lot of teams pick Thanatos whenever Khepri is in the game. But let's move on from talking about them. That was the last time Hunbatz would be seen in Season 3 by Blue Whale getting smacked up in the quarterfinals. And I'm starting to think it's only going to get worse from here, because we get into Season 4 Worlds, and me in particular, I played a lot in Season 4, and I remember Erlong Shin, Odin, Ravana, all of these warrior gods being picked way more often in the jungle. And that's how it went. Those were the gods that were picked. And when there were damage gods, non-warrior gods that were picked, it was Susano and Bastet. Hunbatz was not picked by a team in a single game this year. So I was kind of afraid. We just skipped right past Season 4. Nothing happened. What's going to happen to Season 5? I thought it would only get worse, because I remember Season 5 was kind of a revival of Circuit being even more important, and then Neza and Erlong were super strong this year, same with Ravana. So I was kind of afraid we wouldn't see him again for 2 years straight. It seemed like I was kind of right in my thought. Erlong, Circuit, and Neza were in basically every single game. Pele was also played a lot. But in semifinals, I made it through like 30 games. Hunbatz was finally picked by Sam for Soccer in Game 3 of Trifecta versus Rival. And he had a decent game on it. Couldn't make anything happen, really, in their 3-0 loss. But that would be the first and only time Hunbatz is picked. Honestly, after watching all these games, though, it makes a lot of sense. Gods like Ravana and Neza just have so much value, and Pele can avoid what makes Hunbatz strong. And Circuit kind of does what Hunbatz wants to do, being a very strong teamfight god that can be relatively tanky without having to be a warrior. Now, moving on to Season 6, here I'm still afraid. I'm just afraid that we're going to stop talking about the monkey. I don't remember him being played very often. I am afraid we have gone past Hunbatz's peak of impactfulness. Cuvo Fred in the quarterfinals picked Hunbatz against PK. He didn't really have a great game, just couldn't get anything going throughout the whole game. A lot of Thor and Erlong Shin are being played, and it makes a lot of sense why the Hunbatz can't do anything. Sam for Soccer, though, picks Hunbatz in Game 3 against the Renegades and has a fantastic game. It was insane. Sam just completely took over the game, and it made it so Renegades had to ban Hunbatz. It was like a statement game. Sam then picked Hunbatz again in the first game of the Grand Finals against Team Rival, and he, again, had an insane game.
Problem now is that you've got to check a lot of boxes before you get a chance to kill Paul.
Now Fire Giant started up, but it was a bit of a bait tactic. Catches and Twig in the turtle fork. That means no healing for you. Oh, bit of evil! And the damage from Paul in tow comes through. 2 members of Rival are already dead. Make that 3 as Pandacat falls down to Belair.
Rival had to ban it. They had no choice. They had to get rid of it. They did, though, let Hunbatz through in Game 4, and Sam sees that. He jumps on it, goes back, and has an insane game for the 3rd time in a row, going deathless. He did not die a single time. It was so cool to see Hunbatz actually shine.
Zapman could be in a different story. No relics for Zapman, but he had to Horsey. And Horsey, don't you stop! Fido King! Fido! And Fido getting a crush to the back. That's it! Knife shot it! Takes the life of Fido King! That's it! Oh, gets the kill! And SK Gaming are marching down mid lane!
It's been a long time since it happened. He was only picked 4 times this year, but a couple of those games, he went absolutely crazy. Sam for Soccer was never one of my favorite players watching the Pro League growing up and stuff, but from this experiment, I've learned to really respect his game, and he is so good on Hunbatz. It's cool to watch. Season 7, though. That was the last time Hunbatz was picked in Season 6. We're going into Season 7 Worlds. I know we're moving kind of fast. Well, we'll have a bit to talk about, I hope. From what I remember, Ratatasker was kind of on a heater again this year, and Camazotz was huge again this year. Gods like Erlong, Ravana, Nemesis got a lot of playtime this year. I just don't know if Hunbatz is going to have any room. There were so many good tank junglers at this point in time. So I was kind of afraid we wouldn't see any Hunbatz. It's important to recognize that in Season 7 and throughout Season 6, a couple times, Hunbatz was banned. He was banned relatively often against the people who like to pick him, which kind of gets me into a conversation that we're going to have in later seasons where it becomes more obvious. But when people are comfortable in Hunbatz, they just ban it away. They just don't want to deal with it. Hugo Fred, though, did finally pick Hunbatz in quarterfinals of PK versus SSG. Pittsburgh Knights versus the Space Station Gaming. I realize some people might not know what I'm talking about. And he had a pretty decent game, and just couldn't make it happen. Cherio would then pick Hunbatz in Game 4 against PK, and he had an okay game, just felt kind of shut down. Couldn't get anything really rolling. Sam for Soccer would pick Hunbatz in the next game of Renegades versus Ghost, and he went fucking crazy. Again, I mean, do I need to repeat myself? He had a great game. Sam for Soccer's Hunbatz would have been deathless, but he died like 5 seconds before the Titan died.
That's surprising. Now it's just going to be the remaining push from Ghost Gaming. You got to wait for these waves to move on in. Or not. Fine, okay. Going to get things started off here. I'm a monster channeled from Venenu, but the Fear No Evil will send them right back into the fountain. Captain Twig finds an easy one over Awesome Jake, but Variety pulls one back for the Renegades. The Titan is the ultimate trophy, and Ghost Gaming not able to finish it off just yet. Just need a little bit more damage. The Renegades nearly get the deicide.
Which would be the second time he goes deathless on Hunbatz. It was a fantastic game. Renegades decided enough was enough and banned Hunbatz after that. I guess they forgot because they let Sam have it again in Game 3, and maybe it wasn't a perfect deathless game. He went insane, and so far from watching all these games, Sam for Soccer is the best Hunbatz that I've watched. There was a ton of Ravana and Camazotz and Erlong and Rat in this tournament, but Hunbatz did finally show up again in Game 5 of the Grand Finals. Sam for Soccer picked Hunbatz again in Game 5 of the Grand Finals against PK, and we all know what happened that year. Sam lost, couldn't keep it going, just couldn't clutch out a great experience against PK. I mean, nobody could. These guys were so clutch. So going into Season 8, I was kind of thinking, it's hard, man. It's hard. I feel like I'm just going to be repeating myself over and over again because my hopes did not get any higher for Hunbatz going into any year. Every time I would look at the list of gods that came out in between seasons, I'm like, oh, well, Cleodana's out now. That god was played all the time. There's going to be no room for Hunbatz. Oh, Camazotz, I remember, was really strong at this point in time again. There's no way he gets picked. Erlong Shin is strong this time again. There's no way he gets picked. And that's how I felt in Season 8. All those gods. Neza was also being played a lot. That being said, Hunbatz was finally picked in Game 3 of the Oni Warriors versus the Scarabs by Kivo Fred, and he had a pretty decent game, just couldn't win it for his team. A lot of Gilgamesh I'm noticing is being played. Lasbra, though, did go back to Hunbatz, picking him in Game 4 against the Jade Dragons, and he had a great game on it, leading his team to a win. Kirami picked Hunbatz next and just couldn't make anything happen. Scream, with 5 M's, was the next to pick Hunbatz, and he saw a lot of success on it, picking it again in Game 4 of that same set, not having as good of a game, but winning regardless. Lasbra runs it back with the Monkey, having an insane game and a win against Sleekness.
That is just a no-go. Now you know the Bolts have put some hatred into Sleekness. We'll see if they're going to be able to find a fight that they want. The Phoenix goes down, Lightning Storm, Fear No Evil, all of it getting dropped, and Quig goes along with it. Dude Man Bro is about to respawn, but he's responding to a team in stitches.
Scream decides that he wants to pick Hunbatz again for the 3rd time in the semifinals against the Titans, and had a great game again. He picked it again in Game 4, not being able to do well into the Titans for a loss. So we're seeing a lot of Hunbatz, a lot more than I thought. Captain Twig would pick Hunbatz next in Game 4 against the Atlantis Leviathans. He had a fine game again, but Hunbatz struggles when his team struggles. Seems to be the case here. Anytime a jungler who likes Hunbatz would pick Hunbatz and his team isn't going crazy, the Hunbatz just kind of looks invisible until you get that one miracle Fear No Evil play. That would be the last time Hunbatz was picked. It was kind of nice to see him played more in Season 8 than I really thought. I think we brushed past that, but he was picked like 5 times. I wasn't really expecting that. So going into Season 9, again though, I was a bit pessimistic, thinking there's no fucking way the Monkey gets picked. There's no way. There's so many good gods. But after seeing him kind of shine a little bit in Season 8, people like Lasbra showing that they really enjoy playing him. And I know Lasbra only gets better as a player from this point in time. I had a little bit of hope. Was Season 8 the last time Hunbatz is in the spotlight? I don't think so. We'll see though. Sanford Soccer picked Hunbatz in the Scarab's first game against Hex Mambo, and he had a good game on it, leading his team to a win. Adapting for the first time in a long time would go back to the Hunbatz against the Valkyries and went fucking crazy, destroying the other team.
Adapting and angry with that long-range artillery damage.
Oh,
Love every
this could
bit
be
of
it. This could be it. It's a double taunt from Kha'Zix. It's a massive
So fast!
Oh my god, it's perfect!
By this point into the tournament, we're about 5 games, maybe 6 games in. I've noticed a lot of Mercury is being played this year, and a lot of Neza and Lancelot. Those gods, it all makes sense why Hunbatz would be picked. And kind of get Hunbatz out before he's able to do his damage. Hunbatz is picked again though by Sanford Soccer, who had a fine game on him. Captain Twig would be the next to pick Hunbatz against the Bolts, and he leads his team to an easy win. Twig again goes back to the Monkey in Game 1 of the finals, and I think he's just built different. He had a great game on it, shutting Sino down. But that would be the last time the Hunbatz is picked. So he's picked about 3-4 times. And it was kind of by the same people. And that kind of gets me into the conversation we're going to have after Season 10. We're in Season 10. This is the last season of Smite. And if you notice, we spent most of this video's time talking about Seasons 2 and 3, it felt like. But moving into Season 10, I kind of thought we wouldn't see any Hunbatz. I was ready to not see any, because there was a lot of assassins at this point in time, and it just felt like Lancelot and like a Wheelix were really strong at this point in time. I did not imagine we would see any Hunbatz. However, Rat Milk, what a terrible name by the way, Rat Milk would pick Hunbatz in Game 1 against the Ravens, and he got pretty diffed by Scream. Didn't have a very bad game, but Scream just kind of had a better game. Hunbatz would be picked again, surprise, surprise, by Captain Twig. He's picked a lot of Hunbatz, and he picked it again, and he had an okay game against the Scarabs on it, just couldn't make anything happen. April picks Hunbatz against the Cowlin Wardens. What an insane team name. And they had a pretty good game on it. Captain Twig, I keep saying his name, he picks Hunbatz again against the Wardens, and he also had a pretty great game on it. Adapting is then the final person to pick Hunbatz in the semifinals of Season 10 Worlds. He picked it against the Warriors, and he did not have a great game on it, and they lost. But that would be the last time Hunbatz would be picked in the Smite Pro League. So it was kind of surprising. We did see Hunbatz about 3-4 times again in Season 10. Kind of the same thing as Season 9, where he's picked by the people who like him. And that's kind of what I found in the conclusion of this little research that I did. Hunbatz is a very popular god throughout most of Smite's lifetime, but he is popular with the crowd that enjoys him, and I'm part of that crowd. If you like playing Hunbatz, you will go and pick him. If you like Hunbatz and the other team knows that, they will ban him even if he's not necessarily that great, just because of the ultimate pressure. People like Sam for Soccer, people like Lazra, people like Captain Twig, a little bit of Cuvo Fred too, but mostly those guys who like showed that they had always liked Hunbatz and would go back to Hunbatz and play Hunbatz relatively often. They were really the only ones picking it, you know? I didn't really list off every top jungler's name. That's just a couple junglers that really are comfortable with Hunbatz, and they're the ones who picked it. And it felt like as time went on, when gods like Lancelot, Ratatasker, Gilgamesh were coming out and they're being strong, gods like Thor and Serket, I didn't really touch on it that much, but in Season 1, it was pretty tilting. Everybody was just picking Thor. You were not getting any Hunbatz because it was just Thor, Thor, Thor. Those gods threw Hunbatz to the side. Like, these are the guys that will run team fights. These are the guys that will really show what makes junglers strong. But for the people that like Hunbatz, there is no god that does what Hunbatz does. And I'm hoping that his story will remain the same in Smite 2. I hope he gets played more. We're not talking about Smite 2. I forgot to say that. But no, I'm not going to talk about Smite 2. That story is yet to be told, but I'm hoping that with the new aspect that gives Hunbatz a stun, he will have more of a role to be played in Smite 2 Pro League whenever that does happen. Through this experience, I've learned to love Hunbatz a lot, and he's quickly becoming one of my favorite gods in Smite history. But that will do it for Hunbatz's history in the Smite Pro League. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all of the feedback from my first video that I did. It was honestly very touching to have people that were commenting, telling me things I could do better, and telling me that they liked the idea of this video series. And I want to keep doing it for you guys and for myself because I love the Smite Pro League and I love Smite. So just know that I really appreciate it. There's not a day that goes by where I don't check, the comments to see if anybody else has said anything. I hope that this video is better, and if there's anything I can do to make it even better, please let me know. This is only the second time I've done this, and I really enjoy doing it, and I don't really want to stop. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day. Keep playing Smite. Don't stop. And if you haven't played Smite 2 in a while, please play it. It's ramping up in player numbers. Come on, man. Please play it. I mean, we could use you, especially if you're good. Because I'm in my master's lobbies, and I swear everyone is fucking dog shit. So please play if you're good, please.